My DAUGHTERINLAW redecorated my room, calling it hers. She didn't know I had already sold the house. The house still smelled like Ruth lavender cleaner and old cedar. Sunlight spilled across the floorboards when I came back from Starbucks, coffee still hot in my hand. For a second it felt like nothing had changed. Then I saw the paint cans, the plastic bins labeled Donate, and my daughter-in-law standing in the middle of the room with a tape measure. "Oh, hey," Serena said lightly. "We're redoing this space. It's our master suite now. You can sleep in the guest room." My son, Evan, wouldn't meet my eyes. "It's temporary, Dad. You'll have more space downstairs." I looked at the cedar chest where Ruth kept our Christmas linens. Her Dior handbag sat on top of it. "You cleared her things," I said. Serena smiled. "It's called moving forward, Walter. You retired at 58. Time to declutter. You." The coffee cooled fast. So did everything else. I guess 99% of you will hear this, sigh, and scroll past, not clicking like or subscribe, even if it only takes a second. What time is it for you, and where are you listening? The house still smelled faintly like cedar and Ruth's old lavender cleaner. I'd just come back from my morning Starbucks run grande pike, splash of half and half, and the reunion breakfast with my old fire crew. The sun was cutting low through the maple trees when I turned into the driveway. For once the place looked quiet, too quiet. Inside, the air had changed. Paint cans sat by the door labeled Red Swiss Coffee, which I found almost funny. There was nothing Swiss or coffee about it, just a pale beige trying to pretend it was elegant. And then I saw her. Serena. Leggings, silk blouse, hair pulled tight, measuring tape in hand like she was auditioning for a home renovation show. Her Dior handbag was perched on Ruth's cedar chest, the one we bought the year we moved in, the one that used to hold Christmas linens. Now it was being used as a footstool. She looked over her shoulder at me, casual as if I were interrupting. "Oh, hey," she said. "We're redoing this space. It's our master suite now. You can sleep in the guest room." Just like that. The words floated for a second before they landed, heavy. I looked at the bed. Ruth's quilt, the one she'd made from old station shirts and picnic tablecloths, was gone. In its place, a plastic bin with a white label in neat label maker font. Donate. "You cleared her things," I said. My voice was even, but it didn't sound like mine. Serena shrugged, still holding her tape measure. "It's called moving forward, Walter. You retired at 58. Time to declutter. To you." She smiled then, and for a second the sunlight caught on her bracelet Tiffany, or maybe Cartier, and it flashed right into my eyes. Behind her, my son stood in the doorway. Evan. His eyes stayed on the floor, the same way he used to when he broke a window as a kid and waited for Ruth to do the talking. "Dad," he started, rubbing the back of his neck. "It's temporary. We're renovating. You'll have more space downstairs." More space. That's what people say when they're really talking about distance. I took a slow breath, scanning the room. Ruth's rosary wasn't on the wall anymore. The nail hole was still there, small and clean. The kind of hole you could miss unless you'd spent 35 years looking at it. Ruth's voice came to me, soft but certain. "Don't raise your voice, raise your standards." So I didn't yell, didn't even flinch. "Guest room, huh?" I said finally. Serena gave a satisfied little nod, mistaking calm for compliance. The smell of fresh paint hit the back of my throat, chemical and sweet. I could almost hear it mixing with the phantom sound of a ladder truck backing into the bay, beep, 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 steady, methodical, inevitable. I picked up my coffee from the hallway table and walked deeper into the room. The heat from the cup seeped into my hand as I set it gently on Ruth's cedar chest, right beside the tape measure. Serena's voice carried behind me, still chirping about accent walls and lighting fixtures. Evan mumbled something about heading to Home Depot, but I wasn't listening anymore. I looked around at what used to be our room and saw what it had become, a stage for someone else's idea of importance. A woman measuring my life in inches of trim and gallons of beige paint. Not anger, not even shock, just quiet. The kind of quiet you only hear right before a structure gives way. I touched the spot on the wall where Ruth's rosary once hung, feeling that tiny nail hole like a pulse under the paint. Then I whispered to the empty air, "All right, Ruth, no shouting, systems." I turned toward the door, every step measured, steady. I set my coffee down on Ruth's cedar chest, and before the heat could leave the cup, I decided I was done sleeping in any room where I'm a guest. Sunday dinner used to mean something in our house. Pot roast, mashed potatoes, the smell of rosemary in the air. Ruth always said it was how we reset the family compass. Now it just felt like we'd lost north. The dining room glowed under the Edison bulb pendant I installed myself 20 years ago. Ruth's china white with tiny blue rims sat in perfect lines down the table. Serena had insisted on stemless wine glasses, said the old ones were too formal. She held one now, swirling it like she was about to make a TED Talk instead of eating a meal. Ortiz and his wife Angela were there. Old friends. I'd invited them because it felt right to have someone from the station here, a reminder that I hadn't imagined my life before this. 10 people total, but the table felt small. Serena cleared her throat, smile bright enough to sting. Hero worship is dated, she said, leaning back in her chair like a talk show guest. All that adrenaline, toxic masculinity, let's evolve, right? Angela's fork froze halfway to her mouth. Ortiz went quiet, staring at the mashed potatoes like they'd started giving him moral advice. Evan reached for his wine. Babe. No, I mean it. Serena cut him off, tapping her iPhone against the table. The little chime of her Tiffany bracelet punctuated every word. Half those fires are preventable, the rest is... She paused, hunting for the right insult. Found it. Theater. That word hit harder than any flame ever did. Ortiz blinked, still not looking up. Angela gave him the kind of gentle nudge that said, "Stay calm." Theater, I repeated quietly, not for her, not even for them, just to hear it out loud. Serena smiled. Too long. You have to admit, she went on, guys love the attention. Sirens, uniforms, it's all very performative. Performative. The table went still. The steam from the pot roast lifted in thin, ghostly ribbons, curling toward the ceiling like the soul of the night escaping. I set my spoon down on my plate. The sound china against wood was sharp, deliberate. Ortiz cleared his throat. Well, he said, if it's theater, I guess the fire doesn't clap back. A few nervous laughs around the table. Evan forced one too, short and brittle. Serena chuckled as if he'd just confirmed her point. You know what I mean. I did. Too well. I thought of Ruth at the 4th of July parade, 20 years ago. She'd pinned a tiny paper badge on a toddler, someone's grandkid, right before the ladder truck rolled past. The siren had wailed soft and proud, a sound that used to mean something in this town. I could still feel the vibration of that engine in my chest. Now I felt nothing but the hum of disrespect vibrating through the table legs. I smiled, polite, as though her words hadn't just cut through 30 years of service and sacrifice. More potatoes, Serena? I asked, my voice steady. She blinked, thrown off balance. No thank you. Evan looked at me, waiting for me to explode. I didn't. Ruth wouldn't have. Dinner continued, sort of. Conversations split into small, safe pockets. Angela complimented the china. Evan mumbled about mortgage rates. Serena texted under the table, thumb flicking fast. When the laughter finally faded and the plates were empty, I stood to clear the table. My hand brushed the chipped edge of the gravy boat Ohio shaped. Ruth used to joke, and I thought about how cracks spread quietly before walls give way. As I stacked the plates, I realized the house wasn't the only thing Serena planned to redecorate. The elevator hummed as it climbed the 27 floors up to Ellen Shaw's office in Midtown. Its mirrored walls caught my reflection older, steadier than I remembered, but the kind of steady that comes after too many small earthquakes. Outside, sirens threaded faintly through the glass, the city's version of a heartbeat. Ellen's office looked exactly how a good attorney's should. Minimal, expensive, and faintly cold. Leather chairs that squeaked when you sat, a view of the East River smudged by late morning haze, and a Mont Blanc pen sitting on a contract like it was guarding something sacred. She didn't bother with small talk. She pushed you out of the primary bedroom? Suggested, I said. Then boxed Ruth's quilt. Ellen nodded once, flipping through the will on her screen. I'd seen that look before, people reviewing damage reports after a fire. Detached but methodical. She turned the monitor toward me. Residency clause stands, she said, tapping the highlighted section. If an heir forces or attempts to displace you from your primary room of residence, they forfeit their inheritance. Ruth was thorough. Ruth. Even her practicality had love in it. I could almost see her handwriting from the first draft, small, neat, the kind that put hearts over eyes, as if a little warmth could make the law less sharp. I leaned back in the chair. So it's ironclad? Ellen smiled faintly. Iron doesn't rust as fast as families do, but yes, enforceable. I nodded, my fingers resting on the edge of the desk. The cool glass pressed against my skin like ice before a burn. Don't send anything yet, I said. Ellen tilted her head. You want a trigger then? I want clarity and daylight, I replied. I want them to walk into their own mistake. She studied me for a moment. The quiet tone, the phrasing. You're not angry, are you? Not my first fire, I said. Just a different fuel. Her keyboard clicked, the sound crisp and final. She opened a file, typed for a few seconds, and then slid her phone across the desk. A text template sat on the screen dry. Exact. The kind of sentence that could change a life. By forcing Mr. Hayes from his primary bedroom, you have violated Section 7B of the will's residency clause. Any heir who displaces him forfeits their inheritance. I read it once. Then again, then breathed. Keep that on your phone, she said. When the moment comes, you won't have to think. Moments like these, I said quietly, are what thinking's for. Ellen smiled again, but this time it carried weight. Walter, most people call me when the fire's already out. You're the rare one who calls while the match is still in the box. I stood, buttoned my jacket, and handed over a Bank of America cashier's check for the retainer. She slipped it into a folder without even glancing. As I turned to leave, I noticed a faint scratch on her desk, long, shallow, shaped like a ladder. Funny what you notice when you're ready to climb out of something. Outside, the wind off the river cut through my jacket, but the air felt clean. I took out my phone. The unsent message waited quietly in the drafts, like a fire alarm behind glass. Break in case of emergency. I didn't plan to break it yet. I walked back toward the elevator, the hum of the city folding around me. Systems, procedures, timing. I left Ellen's office with a quiet weapon in my pocket and a promise to use it in front of witnesses. Saturday, noon sharp. The sun hit the driveway like a spotlight, the kind you can't step out of. A BMW X5 idled at the curb, engine low and confident. Movers, two guys in matching blue polos with Summit Hauling Co. Stitched on the chest, unloaded a tufted headboard wrapped in plastic. Careful with that, Serena called, sunglasses perched on her head like a crown. It's custom. From the porch, I watched the scene unfold, my coffee cooling in my hand. My bed, Ruth's bed, was being carried out like a retired piece of furniture at a yard sale. Serena, what are you doing? I asked. She didn't even turn around. Making space, she chirped. You'll be cozier in the guest room. It's quieter down the hall. Hi. One of the movers brushed past me, lugging the cedar nightstand Ruth used to rest her prayer book on. I didn't stop him. I didn't move. Serena held up color swatches, cream, sand, linen, fanning them out like medals she'd earned. Also this quilt? She pointed to the plastic bin by the door. I feel allergies. I glanced at Evan. He was signing the mover's clipboard, his signature looping like someone trying to hurry through guilt. We'll put your stuff safe, Dad, he said. Promise. His voice was thin as old thread. Where's it going? I asked. Storage, he replied, not meeting my eyes. Storage. The word sat heavy in my chest. That's where you put things you're too sentimental to throw out, but too impatient to live with. I checked my watch. 12:39 p.m. Serena swept into the room, gesturing like a realtor. We're upgrading the suite, she announced to the movers, loud enough for the neighborhood to hear. His and hers mirrors, recessed lighting finally, a real master bedroom. One of the movers nodded politely, the other kept his head down. They were paid to move boxes, not notice lines being crossed. I didn't record it, didn't take photos, didn't need to. Years of writing fire incident reports had trained my mind to timestamp everything. 12:41 p.m. bed removed. 12:43 p. M. Mauvais exit. 12:44 p.m. Serena says, our master suite. 12:45 p.m. door closes. All of it logged quietly in my head. I walked into the hall. Ruth's picture still hung near the thermostat. Her smile caught in that photo, the one from our 30th anniversary at the station, seemed to look right through the scene. For a second, I pictured her alive again, standing on a ladder, hanging those old curtains she loved. The rod slipped once, and she laughed so hard she dropped the screwdriver. I could still hear that laugh echoing down the hallway. That laugh died right there, under fresh paint. "Dad?" Evan said softly, following me out. "You're not mad, are you?" "Mad?" I said, turning to him. "No, just watching." He frowned, confused. "Watching what?" The point of no return. Serena's voice drifted from the bedroom. "Babe, tell the movers to come back tomorrow for the dresser." Evan sighed, rubbing his temples. "I'll handle it." "Good," I said. "Make sure you do." Then I walked outside, the afternoon glare forcing me to squint. The X5 still idled, exhaust curling like a slow exhale. At 12:41 p.m., with the sun high and the bed gone, I finally had everything I needed to stop being polite. Late afternoon light cut across my study like a slow metronome. The leather chair sighed when I sat down, Ruth's chair, technically. She used to sit there balancing church donation spreadsheets while I drafted grant reports for the firefighters' fund. Now it was Command Central. My MacBook Air hummed to life. The Omega on my wrist ticked in sync. I closed the door, the sound deliberate like sealing off an engine room before ignition. Call 1. The realtor. Denise Wu picked up on the second ring. "Walter, long time. Need discretion, Denise. Buyer who can close clean 30 days max." Her keyboard clicks carried through the line. "I've got one. Veteran-owned LLC, Lakefield Homes. They've been looking in your area. Respectful, low profile." "Perfect," I said. "Draw it up. Keep the listing private for now." A pause, the sound of professionalism softening into friendship. "You okay, Walt?" "Better than I look." She laughed lightly, sensing the shift in me. She'd sold houses for widowers before. She knew the sound of a man done explaining himself. "Call 2. Ortiz." He answered with his usual. "Cap, you alive?" "Alive and working. Listen, we're moving the firefighters' scholarship night. VFW Hall instead of the country club. I'll cover the difference. A beat. Everything all right?" "Just realigning priorities." Ortiz exhaled. "Copy that. The VFW will love it. Ruth would too." I smiled into the silence. Ruth would have hated the country club's valet parking, all those polished shoes pretending to be purpose. Call 3. Ellen Shaw. She didn't waste time. "You're ready to trigger?" "Not yet. Draft the buyer-seller memo, keep it sealed, and prep the clause text for my phone." It's already there," she said. "When you send it, it'll log the timestamp." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. "That's why I pay you, Ellen." She chuckled. "That's why Ruth picked me first." When the line went quiet, I opened the top drawer of the desk. Inside, a small cassette sat in a velvet pouch. Ruth's handwriting on the label, Church Fundraiser 2009. I hadn't played it in years. I didn't need to. I still remembered her voice saying it. "Don't feed their vanity, Walt. Starve." So I did. I opened my neighborhood watch app and typed, "Heads up, contractors working on our block this week. Keep driveways clear, please." Calm, neutral, a seed planted. By dinner, half the neighbors would ask who was remodeling, and by morning the rumor mill would start chewing. Next, I scheduled a locksmith for Monday. Quiet job, no fuss. Changed locks meant peace of mind, not paranoia. Finally, I reviewed Denise's email. Subject, escrow setup, confirmation Lakefield Homes. Soft credit pull complete. Title coordination, Halliday & Sons, Newark. Perfect. Mundane details. Real paperwork, the kind of realism Serena couldn't spin into drama. I leaned back, phone warm in my palm. The calls were done. No shouting, no scenes. Just levers. Outside, the sun dipped behind the oak trees, painting the study gold. I thought about Ruth again, her laugh echoing down this same hallway when she'd first seen the house. "You built something solid," she'd said. Maybe I had. And now, piece by piece, I was reclaiming it. By dusk, I hadn't raised my voice once, and somehow the ground had already started moving under Serena's heels. Magnolia Court had always been the kind of neighborhood that pretended it didn't gossip, the kind with annual block parties, recycled decorations, and polite smiles stretched over quiet curiosity. Folding tables lined the cul-de-sac that afternoon, covered with deviled eggs, potato salad, and store-bought cookies that came in plastic clamshells. Someone's Bluetooth speaker played soft classic rock. I could smell lighter fluid from a grill 2 doors down, mixed with the faint sweetness of barbecue sauce. The kids ran in circles, chasing bubbles, while the adults talked about mortgage rates and new SUVs. It would have been peaceful if Serena hadn't decided to turn it into theater. She arrived late, in white linen and oversized sunglasses, holding a plate she didn't plan to eat from. Evan followed a step behind, hands in his pockets, smiling the way people smile when they're bracing for impact. "Walter!" Serena called out too bright, her voice slicing through the low hum of conversation. Heads turned. "What's this I hear about showings?" She tilted her head, smile sugar slick. "Are you selling our house?" I turned, calmly. "Our?" I repeated, voice low enough that only the nearest few heard. She stepped closer, her perfume cutting through the scent of grilled corn. "You didn't think we'd find out, did you? The neighbors mentioned someone saw cars parked out front midweek." "That would be the inspector," I said. "Routine." "Oh, right." She smiled, the kind of smile that dares you to blink first. "Well, if you're selling our house, I just hope the buyers like your little, what do you call it? Legacy wall?" She pointed toward my living room window, where the framed commendation from my fire department days hung next to a shadow box of badges. "The legacy wall stays if we buy," she said loudly enough for the crowd to catch every word. "But, like, the vibe? It's very Dad Museum." Someone laughed under their breath. Someone else stopped chewing. I heard it before I saw it, Evan's short, nervous laugh. It came out like static. "Serena has a point," he said. "It's time we modernize." For a second, the entire block went silent. The hum of the speaker faded behind the weight of what he'd just said. Angela Ortiz, my old friend's wife, froze mid-sip of her lemonade. Her husband, standing beside her, gave me a single look. Steady, quiet. The kind of look that said, "We see it." Across the street, a Ring camera blinked red. Its small light glowed like a tiny, unblinking witness. Serena kept talking, unaware or pretending not to be. "I mean, honestly, Walter, that wall is such a metaphor, clinging to the past, blocking the view of the future." Her words landed like a handful of gravel against glass. I smiled. Not wide, not friendly, just enough to make her pause. "I like my view just fine," I said softly. Someone dropped a plastic fork. The sound cracked the silence clean in half. Serena flushed. Evan looked at me like a boy who'd just realized he'd stepped too close to the edge of something deep. I didn't raise my voice, didn't defend myself, didn't need to. The air had already changed. I excused myself, setting my paper cup down on the nearest table. "Good food," I said to no one in particular. "You all take care." As I walked back toward the house, the chatter behind me started again, but lower now, cautious. The Ring camera light blinked twice before fading out, recording the silence more faithfully than any person could. Ruth's voice drifted through my head, faint but certain. "You can't fix grown people. You can fix a fence." I looked at the white pickets lining Magnolia Court, each one straight and steady. Maybe that was enough. When the fork hit the asphalt, I knew we'd crossed from family trouble into neighborhood folklore. Monday, 10:06 a.m. I heard the BMW before I saw it. Same low hum as always, confident, expensive, unnecessary. The doorbell rang once, no patience, no pause. I was halfway through my second cup of coffee when I opened the door to find Serena standing there with a decorator. Mid-30s, linen trousers, carrying a fabric swatch book like a priest with a hymnal. "Morning, Walter," Serena sang, stepping inside without waiting. "We're ripping out the closet. Evan and I need space. You'll be comfortable downstairs." Her tone was breezy, but her eyes gleamed like someone playing a hand she thought was unbeatable. The decorator smiled nervously. "We're just measuring wall depth for built-ins," he offered, as if that softened the invasion. Behind her, Evan appeared, tie crooked, face pale from too little sleep and too much denial. "Dad, it's just logistics." I set my coffee cup down on the hallway table, right beside Ruth's old ceramic dish for keys. My Omega ticked loud enough to count the seconds between Serena's sentences. "Logistics," I repeated. "Before you proceed." She blinked, sensing the change in tone. I pulled my iPhone from my pocket, unlocked it, and opened the text Ellen had drafted weeks ago. I read, slowly, clearly, the way I used to read emergency orders on the radio. By forcing Mr. Hayes from his primary bedroom, you have violated Section 7B of the Will's Residency Clause. Any heir who displaces him forfeits their inheritance. The hallway went silent. The only sound was the decorator turning a page a little too loudly, the fabric rustling like paper wings trying to escape. Serena stared at me. You wouldn't. I looked her right in the eye. You already did. Then I pressed send. Delivered. 10:07 a.m. Ellen Shaw's name glowed at the top of the thread. 1 blue check mark, then 2. The decorator shifted his weight, eyes darting toward the front door. A loose thread on his cuff fluttered with the movement. Ellen's reply came seconds later. Received. Noted for record. Serena's face drained, slow at first, then all at once like a stage losing its lights. What does that mean? She demanded. You can't enforce the terms of a contract you violated? I finished for her. That's the thing about legality. It doesn't need your approval, just your actions. Evan took a step forward. Dad, let's talk. I met his eyes. We are, right now. He stopped. For the first time in years, I saw him recognize something maybe the fire captain I used to be. The man who ran into burning buildings without flinching. The man who didn't negotiate with smoke. Serena's phone buzzed in her hand. She looked down. Probably Ellen's follow-up email, formal and cold. I could almost hear the blood rushing in her ears. This is harassment, she said finally, voice trembling. You're making a mistake. Possibly, I said. But a documented one. The decorator mumbled an excuse about another appointment and slipped out the door. The BMW's trunk popped open a second later. Evan rubbed his temples, eyes closed. Why'd you have to do this? Because, I said quietly, you let her forget whose house this is. For a long moment no one spoke. Just the hum of the air conditioner and the faint sound of a leaf blower down the block. I turned back toward my study. My fingers brushed Ruth's old rosary on the entry table, a thread worn smooth from years of habit. Imagined or not, it steadied me. Behind me, Serena inhaled sharply, as if oxygen had suddenly become a privilege. Her mouth opened, but the only thing that came out was the sound of a future closing. The funny thing about momentum is how quiet it sounds when it turns. By Wednesday morning, the ripples had started to reach the edges of Serena's perfect world. Contracts, conversations, smiles that used to come easy, suddenly sticky, hesitant, delayed. The first crack appeared at the country club. Marble lobby, air conditioning set to Arctic wealth, a floral arrangement that smelled like freshly printed money. A portrait of some long-dead founder glared down from the wall, judging everyone beneath him. Serena stood at the events desk, voice sharp but polished. My family is hosting here. Our guests expect continuity. The date was confirmed. Oh? The events manager, a woman in pearls and practiced calm, scrolled her tablet. I'm afraid we're at capacity for your preferred date. That's impossible, Serena snapped. We've been members for years. Technically, your in-laws are members, the woman corrected, still smiling. Also, several sponsors have redirected to the VFW event that same weekend. I believe it's for the Firefighters Scholarship Gala. That venue is well receiving quite a bit of attention. Serena blinked. Her lips parted, then closed again like she'd forgotten how to form words. Outside, she hissed at Evan, voice tight and shaking. Your father is tanking our life. Evan looked at the BMW's reflection in the glass door, not at her. He's just protecting his rights. Her face hardened. Whose side are you on? He didn't answer. The silence was its own declaration. Inside the lobby, the founder's portrait kept staring down, smug as ever. By noon, her phone buzzed again, Bank of America Mortgage Center. She opened the email, eyes scanning the subject line. Approval application, additional documentation required. Due to updates in your DTI ratio, your application is under review. Please provide current income verification within 48 hours. Her jaw tightened. She turned the screen toward Evan, voice trembling. They're reevaluating. Can you believe this timing? He rubbed the back of his neck. It's probably nothing. Oh, nothing? She repeated. It's all connected. She wasn't wrong. Meanwhile, my own phone buzzed with a very different message. Denise Wu, my realtor. Inspection cleared. Veteran-owned buyer confirmed. Escrow moving forward. She added a thumbs-up emoji, because Denise was the type to treat business like a calm game of chess. I replied, "Proceed," quietly. Then I opened my iPad, the spreadsheet still on screen from the night before: timelines, transfers, legal notations. The Lincoln's vent blew warm air laced with a hint of dust. The smell pulled me backward years ago, night drives with Ruth. 2 coffees, 1 Springsteen cassette, the windows half open. She used to laugh at nothing. Just laugh. I inhaled once, exhaled, then refocused. Back to the present. By late afternoon, Ortiz texted me a photo of the VFW hall. A flyer taped to the entrance read, "Firefighters Scholarship Night capacity reached. Standing room only." Underneath, his message, "You broke their monopoly, Cap. Feels good." I typed back, "It's not about breaking. It's about balance." Then, at my kitchen island, I uncapped my Mont Blanc. The contract was ready, sale in progress, escrow solid. The pen's weight felt right in my hand. 1 signature. Clean. Done. The house wasn't gone yet, but the ground beneath Serena's feet was. When the country club doors eased shut behind her that morning, she didn't realize she'd already been locked out of something bigger than marble and chandeliers. I realized the real party was moving somewhere she couldn't buy a table. By late morning, sunlight spilled across the butcher block like it had business here. The omega on my wrist ticked softly, a metronome for things that refused to rush. My iPad lay open on the counter, spreadsheet clean and color-coded. Escrow, appraisal, title order number, all green. I was stirring my second cup of coffee when Serena's parents arrived. Elaine first cream blazer, pearls, the kind of perfume that came with a reputation. Her husband Victor followed a step behind, all posture and Rolex. Together, they looked like a press release that had learned how to walk. "Walter," Elaine began, her smile taut enough to hold a picture frame. Her eyes flicked around the kitchen, cataloging every imperfection. Such civic charm. "But you know, there's a modern standard now. Aesthetic matters." She gestured vaguely toward the framed commendation from the fire department hanging above the coffee maker, like it was an antique she planned to donate. Victor checked his watch, not to tell time, but to remind me he owned one that did. "We'll help with the refi," he said, "provided we control the renovations." A pause, then Serena, smiling too brightly, added, "Dad, tell him how fast your banker moves." I took my time with the coffee stir. The spoon clinked once against the mug. "I already have a buyer." The silence that followed was so pure it almost shimmered. Elaine's eyebrows lifted, then fell. "Oh, Walter, you're adorable." The laugh that followed wasn't laughter, more like air leaving a room politely. Evan stood behind her, hands shoved deep into his pockets, watching me the way a rookie firefighter watches a controlled burn, half fear, half fascination. Serena folded her arms. "A buyer? Who?" I turned my iPad around. On the screen, my realtor's message glowed. Inspection, cleared. Appraisal, in range. Buyer financing, locked. Lakefield Homes LLC, veteran-owned. Elaine's smile faltered. Victor leaned closer to read, his finger twitching toward the screen like he wanted to swipe the information away. "Escrow's already moving?" Serena asked, voice tight. "Moving," I said, "not waiting." Victor exhaled through his nose. "You'll regret selling without family input." "Maybe," I said, "but I've survived worse decisions made by committees." For a moment, no one moved. The kitchen was too still. Even the refrigerator hummed cautiously. Elaine recovered first, folding her blazer sleeve like she was reassembling composure. "We'll have a proper family discussion," she said. "At the club, tomorrow evening. Everyone needs clarity." I nodded. "Of course." She smiled again, relieved. "Good, it's settled." I didn't write anything down. Didn't need to. Some appointments keep themselves. When they left, the house felt bigger, quieter, like it had inhaled after holding its breath too long. I glanced toward the spice rack. A faded sticky note still clung to the underside of the shelf, its corner curling upward. Ruth's handwriting, faint but legible. "Buy garlic. Ignore bullies." I smiled, tracing the edge of the note with my thumb. Then I opened my phone's calendar and tapped the upcoming event. Title company walk through Thursday, 10 a.m. Address confirmed. Escrow ID blinking like a heartbeat. Evan lingered by the door. Dad, you really sold it? Selling, I corrected. Still mine until it isn't. Oh. He hesitated. Serena's not going to take this well. She's not supposed to, I said. He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded once, slow. By the time Elaine finished explaining taste, the only number that mattered was the escrow ID blinking on my phone. The valet took my Lincoln key between two fingers like it was contagious. White gloves, polished smile hospital goes over Kiat judgment. Inside, the country club smelled like linen napkins and money that had forgotten how to sweat. The jazz from the bar was just loud enough to muffle whatever people didn't want overheard. They'd picked the private dining room off the 18th green. I'd been here before charity events, retirement dinners, the kind of functions where people applaud decency like it's theater. Now, the same chandelier cast its fractured light over the four of them. Elaine, in another cream blazer. Victor, pretending to check emails. Serena, radiant and sharp as a blade disguised as a smile. Evan, sweating under a sport coat that wasn't his color. Walter, Elaine began, tone syrupy. We're all aligned here. No need for escalations. Aligned, I repeated. The word tasted like a boardroom memo. Victor leaned forward, resting his Rolex against the white linen. Let's delay the sale 90 days. Our banker at Chase can structure something cleaner, higher valuation, better optics. Optics. The word they used when they meant control. Serena slid her hand over Evan's wrist. Honey, she said, say it. He swallowed. His Adam's apple bobbed once, twice. Then he said it. Dad, maybe don't weaponize your legacy. It looks bad. A waiter appeared right then, refilling water glasses. Perfect timing, corporate choreography. I thanked him. It was the only thank you in the room. Serena smiled, victorious. See, we're reasonable. I looked at Evan, really looked at him. His shoulders were set the way mine used to be during inspections, rigid, ready, but in the wrong direction. That your sentence? I asked. Or hers? He didn't answer. The chandelier hummed quietly overhead. The ice in my glass clicked once, like punctuation. Elaine cleared her throat. Walter, you're tired. Emotional decisions rarely end well. I'm fine, I said. Victor chuckled low. You'll thank us later. I reached into my jacket, pulled out the folder Ellen had sent me that morning, set it on the table. The sound was soft, final. The sale proceeds, I said. Serena's smile twitched. Elaine leaned back, assessing me like a problem she couldn't invoice. Then we'll make calls, she said. So will I. The table went still. Outside, golf carts hummed by on the green, their soft whir oddly serene. Evan exhaled. Dad, come on, this isn't a fight. No, I said. It's documentation. He blinked, not understanding. Serena did. Her nails tapped the glass twice. Be careful, Walter, she said, voice low. People will start asking questions. They already are, I replied. Somewhere behind me, someone's phone camera clicked a reflex more than malice. The flash caught in the chandelier crystals, scattering tiny fragments of light across the table. We all looked fractured for a moment, four faces in pieces, none fitting the way they used to. I pushed my chair back. The carpet was thick, swallowing sound, swallowing anger. I stood, left a 20 on the table for the waiter, and buttoned my jacket. Enjoy your summit, I said quietly. I've got work to finish. No one tried to stop me. As I walked toward the exit, I passed the same portrait of the founder who'd stared down Serena a week earlier. His painted eyes followed me this time, maybe approving, maybe just curious. At the valet stand, the kid handed me my key without a word. His gloves looked whiter than before. When I glanced back, I could still see their reflection in the glass, four people in perfect lighting, pretending they hadn't just lost something real. I pushed back my chair, and the chandelier scattered our faces into tiny pieces I no longer planned to glue together. I guess 99% of you will hear this, sigh and scroll past, not clicking like or subscribe. Even if it only takes a second, what time is it for you, and where are you listening? The printer woke first. A low hum, then the slow, deliberate shuff of paper sliding out black ink, still warm, edges crisp. The smell filled the study, sharp and clean, like order. I sat at Ruth's old oak desk, reviewing the final draft one last time. Notice of title transfer and occupancy terms. No adjectives, no anger, just the language of closure. The Mont Blanc pen sat beside the folder like a ceremonial tool. I signed my name steady, block letters, once for the official copy, once for them. Paper has a spine if you write like you mean it. I slipped the pages into 2 cream envelopes, added a paperclip bent slightly into the shape of a fish, Ruth's old habit, and pressed the flap closed. By the time I stepped into the hallway, the house had the stillness of a station after the last alarm used, but calm. Serena was waiting by the door, arms crossed, posture sharpened by defiance. "You think you can evict us?" "No," I said, holding out the envelopes. "I'm transferring title." Evan appeared behind her, eyes flicking from my face to the folder. "What's this?" "One for you," I said, handing him the first envelope, "and one for your attorney." He tore it open, scanning fast. 30-day occupancy with weekly walkthroughs? "Standard," I said. He looked up. "You'll be respectful?" "I will," I said. "Expect the same." Serena scoffed. "We'll challenge this." I nodded once. "That's your right. Here's the title company's number." Her jaw clenched. "You think this makes you look noble?" I slipped my hands into my pockets. "No, Serena. It makes me done." Behind her, Evan exhaled, slow. For the first time in months, he wasn't parroting her lines. Just reading the paper again, lips moving over words like utilities, insurance, inspection window. Real words. Adult words. A crack of possibility, small but visible. 30 days, he murmured. I nodded. Plenty of time to make choices. I turned and walked back toward the study. The printer light blinked once, waiting for the next command, but there wasn't one. On my way to the kitchen, I opened Facebook and typed a short post to the neighborhood group. Walter Hayes, Magnolia Court, home closing in progress. Contractors will be scheduled over the next few weeks. Thank you all for your patience and cooperation. Appreciate this community. No subtext. No gossip. Just a clock started in daylight. By noon, a few likes appeared. A congrats cap from Ortiz. A heart emoji from Angela. And one private message from a neighbor I barely spoke to. Good for you, sir. Boundaries are quiet strength. The house felt lighter, though nothing had moved yet. Back at the desk, my phone buzzed Ellen's name flashing. Received by their counsel. Timeline acknowledged. I typed back, "Thank you. Keep all communication written." Then I placed the Mont Blanc into its velvet sleeve, closed the folder, and leaned back in the chair. The clock on the wall ticked steady. Outside, a delivery truck rumbled past, dragging the sound of ordinary life behind it. Ruth's voice floated through memory, half command, half comfort. "You can't control what they say, Walt. Just what's on paper." I looked at the stack of signed pages, the seals drying smooth, the envelopes already cooling in their hands. Procedure had weight. It didn't shout, didn't threaten. It just kept time. With the letters delivered and the clock set, all that remained was to choose the room where the truth would echo the longest. The VFW hall smelled like coffee, old wood, and something fried that had been cooked with love, not precision. Wood-paneled walls, fold-out tables lined with crockpots. Ruth's photo stood at the front beside a single boot filled with carnations. A firefighter's helmet rested behind it, polished but scarred. The scholarship night had outgrown its space this year, chairs packed wall to wall. Neighbors, donors, my old crew, the color guard, all there. The air had that respectful murmur before ceremony, the kind that makes you straighten your spine without thinking. I pinned the agenda to the corkboard near the door. Ruth Hayes Memorial Scholarships Presentation and Community Update. I'd picked this room on purpose. No chandeliers, no marble, no optics. Just folding chairs and honest air. Ortiz gave me a thumbs up from the side, his tie crooked, his pride not. "Good turnout, Cap," he said. "Good purpose," I answered. Then I saw them. Serena, Elaine, and Victor. 3 pearls of entitlement in a sea of denim and uniform blue. They'd come uninvited, of course, walking in like diplomats to a village meeting. Elaine's blazer gleamed under fluorescent light. Victor's cufflinks caught every glare. Serena, perfect as ever, eyes scanning the crowd for allies. I stepped up to the mic. The stand squeaked when I adjusted it. That small, honest sound cut through the room. "Thank you all for being here," I began. "Tonight we award scholarships in Ruth's name, 5 of them, to children of firefighters and first responders. But before that," I paused, breathed. The word clarity floated in my head, Ruth's imagined whisper. "Say it clean." "Before that," I said aloud, "we need a little clarity." A ripple of curiosity moved through the crowd. I held up a simple card, just a note card really, with one paragraph printed in black. "There's a clause in my will called the residency clause," I said. "It states that any heir who removes me from my room forfeits their inheritance." A few murmurs. Someone whispered, "Good for him." From the back, Serena's voice cut through the quiet. "You're humiliating your family." Her words bounced hard against the old wood. I nodded, steady. "No," I said. "I'm protecting all of you from the worst version of yourselves." The crowd stilled. You could almost hear the flag outside, brushing the pole in the wind. I continued, tone even precise. "The sale of my home will fund the Ruth Hayes Endowment held by the VFW and Bank of America. Annual scholarships, transparent accounting, no drama, just purpose." I gestured toward the side table where a modest binder sat open official paperwork, stamped and signed. Next to it, a letter from the bank confirming the deposit, real numbers, no performance. Evans stood near the back. I didn't look at him directly, but I could feel his eyes on me, watching, measuring, maybe understanding for the first time that this wasn't revenge. It was structure. I kept it short, 3 minutes, no applause lines. Then I stepped aside and let Ortiz and the color guard handle the ceremony. When the first scholarship recipient, a shy kid named Logan, walked up to receive his certificate, people clapped. Not politely, but proudly, the kind of sound that fixes something broken in the air. Serena stayed frozen, her mother whispering furiously, her father staring at the floor. I caught Evan's gaze for half a second. He didn't smile, but he didn't look away. That was enough. When it ended, I shook hands, signed one last paper, and looked back at Ruth's photo. The carnations had tilted slightly in the boot, just enough to look like a bow. When the color guard filed out, and the carnations tilted in the boot, I knew there was one apology left to drag into the light. Early evening on the porch. Cicadas buzzing steady, the kind of sound that fills silence without fixing it. The sun sagged behind the maple trees, and the last light pooled on the iced tea sweating on the railing. I scrolled. Text from Ortiz. 2 more sponsors moved over. We're at full capacity. Email from a caterer. Regret we must decline supporting VFW night instead. Best of luck. No drama. Just business choosing direction, the quiet math of consequence. Then came the neighborhood watch notification. New post. Magnolia Court Block Party. Uploaded by Kendall H. It was the Ring camera footage. Serena's voice, clear as daylight. "The legacy wall stays if we buy, but like the vibe. It's very Dad Museum." Evan's nervous laugh followed. Then silence. Then a neighbor dropping a fork. No commentary, no captions, just context. Underneath, the comments were calm, almost kind. "Not a good look. Respect goes a long way. Boundaries matter." Nothing viral, nothing vicious. Just people doing quiet arithmetic. I set the phone down and watched a moth batter itself gently against the porch light. A car door slammed down the street. Heels on gravel. Serena crossed the yard like a storm rehearsing its lines. "You think this is funny?" she snapped. "You told them to post that, didn't you?" I stayed seated. "It isn't my post. You're behind it." I took a sip of tea, slow. "Ask them." She spun, glaring toward the row of houses, each porch now faintly lit, each neighbor pretending not to look while definitely listening. That's how you lose a street. She exhaled hard through her nose, turned back toward the house, and slammed the door behind her. A dog barked somewhere. The air settled again. My phone buzzed another text from Ortiz. "VFW's turning people away. Standing room only." City council rep showed up. I smiled, not out of victory but balance. Ruth's voice slipped through memory, soft and amused. "Let the town handle town things." The town was doing exactly that. Every action Serena had treated like performance. Every comment, Every smirk had simply met its natural audience. No malice, just gravity. I opened my messages again. Email from the title company. Funds clear. Final transfer scheduled for Monday. Clean. Lawful. Done. I leaned back in the rocking chair, the boards creaking under my weight. The sound reminded me of nights Ruth and I spent out here, talking about the small kindnesses that built neighborhoods, who shoveled whose walk, who checked whose porch light. That's the kind of math the world still understands. A gust of wind carried the smell of cut grass from the next yard. For a heartbeat, I was back in winter, the season Ruth died, hearing the faint hiss of her oxygen machine through the walls, the sound of living quietly leaving a house. Then the phone buzzed again. Evan. His name lit up against the dusk. Just that, no preview, no words yet. I let it glow there for a moment, the screen reflection trembling faintly on the glass of my tea. He'd seen it all by now, the ring clip, the comments, the cancellations. He'd done his own math. When I finally picked up the phone, the cicadas seemed to quiet, like the whole street was waiting to see what came next. The night hummed with insects and restraint, and in the quiet between, my son's text finally lit my phone. He picked the place. A Bank of America branch on Maine neutral ground, public, shaded by 2 tired maples. The kind of place where apologies don't echo, they just land and stay there. When I pulled up, he was already on the bench near the ATM, elbows on his knees, staring at nothing. The air shimmered with midday heat. The sound of traffic was a low hiss. He stood when he saw me, then sat again. Dad, this is a mess. His voice cracked halfway through. Serena's folks, they're investors who want control, I said. He blinked, surprised at the precision. Yeah, exactly. He rubbed his face. They told me to sound decisive, confident, like a leader. You sounded owned, I said quietly. He flinched. Not because it was cruel, but because it was true. For a long moment, we just listened to the world happen, car doors slamming, an ATM beeping, someone laughing across the parking lot. Finally, he spoke again. Can you, pause the sale? No. It came out clean, steady, no hesitation. I pulled a folded sheet from my inside pocket and handed it to him. But I can help you move. That's what fathers do. He looked down at it. Move out checklist. Type neatly utilities transfer. Mail forwarding. Deposit refunds. Everything you'd need to leave with dignity. He ran his thumb along the crease. What if I apologize? Then apologize, I said. Not to win, to mean it. He nodded, jaw tight. Serena said if we lose the house, it's my fault. Her parents said you'll cave once it gets quiet again. I smiled faintly. They've never met my kind of quiet. He almost laughed, but didn't. The sun shifted. A shadow from the flagpole crept over his shoes. He looked smaller in that light, the way he had when he was 16 and I was teaching him how to change a tire in the driveway. I remembered his frustration, the lug wrench slipping, his knuckles scraped, Ruth calling from the porch. Let him wrestle it, Walt. He'll remember better if it hurts. She'd been right. Pain and learning often share a glove. Now here he was again, holding something heavy, trying to figure out how to lift it without breaking. Dad, if I go through with this, if I leave Serena, what happens to me? You find out who you are when no one's narrating it for you, I said. It's slower, but it sticks. He nodded once, the kind of nod that means a man just heard something he'll think about for a long time. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I waited. He looked up. Not for everything yet, just for that day, the bedroom. I should have stopped her. Noted, I said. Start there. We sat for a while longer, saying nothing. The bank's automatic door hissed open, then closed again. A teller carried out a stack of deposit envelopes, waved politely, walked past. The world kept running its errands. When Evan finally stood, he folded the checklist like it might cut him. I'll see you at the VFW, he said, if they still let me in. They will, I said. So will I. He nodded, turned toward his car, and for the first time in months, didn't look like someone else's echo. The VFW hall was standing room only. Folding chairs filled every inch of floor, and the old banner fluttered in the hum of the air conditioner. Beneath it, Ruth's photo, same one we'd used every year, stood next to the boot filled with carnations. This time, I didn't need to explain what the night was for. The town already knew. Ortiz gave me a small nod from the back, clipboard in hand. Volunteers moved quietly, efficient. The scholarship envelopes waited in a neat line on the table, names written in Ruth's handwriting, the scanned signature I kept using, because it made the paper feel human. I stepped to the mic. The air settled. "We gather," I said, "for the people who run toward fire, and for the families who wait for them to come home." Ruth believed both kinds of courage deserved honor. Applause, soft and steady. 5 students came up, one by one. I handed them each an envelope, shook hands, smiled for photos. Simple ceremony, real purpose. Then, movement in the back. Evan. He was standing near the entrance, jacket too formal for the heat, face pale but set. Serena wasn't with him. Elaine and Victor weren't either, just him. He waited until the last student sat, then raised a hand slightly. "Dad?" I nodded. He walked down the aisle, each step deliberate. The mic cable trembled when he touched it. "I wasn't on the list to speak," he said, voice rough, "but I need to say something." He looked out at the crowd, neighbors, firefighters, donors, men and women who'd watched him grow up. His hands shook, but his voice didn't stay small for long. "I said my father was weaponizing his legacy." A pause. "The truth is, I let other people weaponize me." No one breathed. I was wrong. I laughed at things I didn't understand, and I forgot who built the life I stand in. "I'm sorry, Dad. I'm sorry to the firefighters I mocked when I laughed." He looked at me then. Not for approval, just for anchor. I didn't move. Didn't rescue. Just stood there, letting him walk through his own fire. Silence stretched. Then someone clapped once or tease. Then another. Then the room filled with it, applause rolling like a slow wave. Not loud, not forced, earnest. Evan swallowed, nodded slightly, and stepped back. I met him halfway, just to take the mic. "Thank you," I said. Ruth would have liked that one. Laughter gentle, collective moved through the hall. The rest of the evening felt lighter. The raffle, the photo booth, the smell of barbecue drifting in from the lot, it all carried that same quiet relief that comes when a town exhales together. Later, when the chairs were stacked and the lights dimmed, I found Evan standing near Ruth's photo. He was staring at it like he was waiting for it to speak. "She'd say you took your time," I told him. He smiled, barely. She'd be right. We stood there together for a while, the air finally cool, the boot of carnations still upright despite the crowd. "Tomorrow," I said, "I'll be at the house at 9, boxes and donuts. You don't have to say anything, just be there." He nodded. "I will." We didn't hug. We didn't need to. On the way out, the AC vent rattled once, then settled, like the building itself was exhaling. I guess 99% of you will hear this, sigh, and scroll past, not clicking like or subscribe, even if it only takes a second. What time is it for you, and where are you listening? Morning came quiet, the kind of quiet that isn't absence, it's permission. The house smelled like cardboard and coffee. A tape gun snapped somewhere down the hall, followed by the low drag of a box across hardwood. Evan was already working when I came in with donuts. He didn't say, "Good morning," just nodded, powdered sugar already on his sleeve. That was enough. We'd decided to start in the hallway, neutral ground. He was wrapping picture frames when he paused, pulling something soft from a bin. The quilt. Ruth's quilt. He froze, half-bent, sunlight cutting across his face. "This yours or—" He stopped himself, looked at me. "Ruth's," I said. He nodded slowly, folded it, then set it back on the cedar chest where it used to live. "Then it stays. No speech, no ceremony, just the right act at the right time." The clock on the wall ticked toward noon. My phone buzzed. Denise, realtor. Recorded. Congrats. A photo followed. County recorded 11. 57 amperes. M. The sale was final. Title transferred. I looked around at the empty rooms, the stripped walls, not hollow clean. A Lincoln idled at the curb. Lakefield Homes rep, young guy, short haircut, veteran flag pin on his lapel, stepped out with an envelope. We shook hands on the porch. "Pleasure doing business, Mr. Hayes," he said. "Take care of her," I replied. He smiled. "We will." Evan came to the doorway just in time to see me hand over the keys. He didn't flinch, just stood there, arms crossed, learning what steadiness looks like. Then Serena's SUV turned the corner. She got out fast, sunglasses on, eyes red. Elaine's number still probably open on her phone. You ruined everything, she said, voice shaking, but not from grief. Just disbelief that the world hadn't bent for her this time. I met her eyes. We're alive. We're housed. We're learning. She scoffed, then turned away. Choices don't like mirrors. She got back in the car. The tires chirped once on the driveway. Inside, Evan finished labeling a box kitchen. Fragile. He didn't look at the door, didn't chase after her. Just kept writing. That's when I knew he'd learned something. Not all of it, but enough for today. We carried the last boxes to the truck, stacked them by category: books, tools, keepsakes unknown. The last one had Ruth's handwriting on it. Winter stuff. I taped it shut. Let's call this one Next Season, I said. He smiled. That's corny. Runs in the family. When the moving company van pulled away, I handed him an envelope of his own one copy of the scholarship endowment letter. Ruth keeps giving, I said. He turned it over in his hands like something fragile. Thanks, Dad. Don't thank me. You'll be the one signing next year's checks. A laugh, small and startled. You sure? Already arranged. Oh. We stood at the curb a moment longer. The house looked smaller without furniture, but lighter, too, like it had finally exhaled. A single strip of packing tape clung to my shoe. I peeled it off, flicked it into the trash bin, and turned the key one last time. The lock clicked clean. When I closed the door, I didn't hear finality, just space. Space for something decent to grow where noise used to be. Evan followed me down the walk. No rush, no words. The sound of the street birds, kids, traffic wasn't silence anymore. It was life happening again,